Welcome to Mask Live. Today's episode is about all things vape. We will be talking with Stephanie Siete, Information Officer from Community Bridges. Stephanie is an educator and a motivator. She began her career with Community Bridges in 2002 and is currently the Public Information Officer. She has spent her career training and networking with local and national police and fire departments, healthcare providers, and governmental agencies about community drug issues. Her work with the FBI earned her the honor of the 2016 FBI Directors Community Leadership Award, Phoenix Division. She was recognized in Washington, D.C. by former FBI Director James Comey in April 2017. Today's episode is one that are on the minds of many parents. We will be talking about all things vape related, and we will be live for the next 15 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions directly, and we will get those answered. Stephanie, thank you for being here today. Oh my gosh, we have known each other at least for 15 years. And just so happy to be able to tap into your expertise, especially in regards to this topic that we are going to be talking about.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And what I love to do for every episode is to really ask the person, like, what got you in this career, in this line of work?
I love that question because the honest truth is I'm from Chicago area. I went to Illinois State and I thought I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I'm going to be a sports broadcasting girl. It was fun for a little bit at college, but health education was my minor. And it was just interesting to me, right? Like learning life beneficial information. Back then, it was like HIV, AIDS, nutrition, sex ed, drugs and society classes. And I found a lot of people come to me, my peers, my friends, because, well, she's taking all these classes, she'll know. And it really just clicked for me then that I was like, gosh, I wonder if I could make money, make a job, talking about things that are life beneficial. Like I have no filter. I'm willing to be honest and talk. And it went from there because I moved to Arizona. This is so ironic because I moved to Arizona, warm weather. And my first big job here is tobacco education, right? And I'm doing outreach and education here and, date myself, but 20 plus years later, it's one of the biggest topics. But that was really my first big job out of college was back then talking about smoking. Now we're talking vaping.
Oh my goodness. Well, Stephanie and I met in the very beginning of Mask. We had her come out when we started doing parent meetings, and you came and spoke to our parents about drugs. And I think it was one of our biggest turnouts in the very beginning. We had I think 100 and something parents and kids show up because our philosophy has always been that you have to educate the parents and the kids. It has to be, and actually the community, it's a whole combined effort to create change. So I didn't know about the broadcasting thing. You totally could have done that. We're broadcasting for prevention, which is much more rewarding and needed because, these kids are tomorrow's leaders and we need them strong and healthy. So well, let's dive into this topic that really is in the hearts and minds of many families. Would you say that vaping is an epidemic for our kids?
Hands down, it's one of the biggest problems. It's probably the number one question I get asked. I work with kids, parents, teachers, but I teach law enforcement as well. And they want to know because a lot of people are concerned parents, and it's an epidemic among our youth. It's very popular. I'd say teens, 20s, up to the age of 30. But at the same time, there's not a lot of information about it. People are still thinking it's this new or safe alternative to smoking. So it's popular, it's trendy, but it's very popular with our teens and their limited life experience brains, as I say. They think it's okay, and it's really not.
It's how many youth would you say are using?
Oh, new data came out that there's over 2.5 million. Think about that. Over 2.5 million youth in this country using. And I will emphasize this. I'm sure it'll come up. We'll have a lot of conversation about this, but a majority, over 85% of those kids started this behavior because it tasted good. You know, when we were growing up, it was tobacco, right? Like one distinct smell of tobacco. And now you've got over 15,000 flavors of vapes out there. I probably couldn't even come up with 1,500, but I want people to hear that 15,000 different flavors that are candy, dessert oriented, attracting, luring. There's a word people don't like putting in for kids, but they're luring kids with their sweet, fragrant flavors.
And it masks, right? The flavor masks the behavior. So it's not like parents can, oh, they're smelling, cigarettes. They're not smelling that, strong scent that's identifiable. This can
And
be
that's one of the biggest problems, right? So then they can use it more frequently, and it's like unknown, like you said, an unknown scent. They can be more sneaky with it. And this, again, my background is tobacco education. We talk about smoking. It's a very tangible thing to do, to light up a cigarette. But to take these little vape products, which we can discuss what they look like, how easy they are to conceal, but visually, some of them, we always say, can fist them. Like you can have it in your fist and be resting and sitting like this, and then taking a hit right there. And all of a sudden you're like, as a teacher, as a parent, was that a body fragrance? Was that a body mist? You know what I mean? It wasn't a very distinct smell of tobacco. It smelled like candy, or OMG, orange mango grapefruit, cool mint, fruity pebbles. It's all out there.
So Juul is a popular one that still exists. There are many similar products. Talk about how Juul looks and how that appeals to the youth.
The thing about Juul, people need to understand, it's been in the media. It did not go away. There was work to try to remove Juul, to remove flavors, and maybe they removed some of the flavors. The devices exist, and I like to explain to people, I'll explain what a Juul looks like, but just understand, once you learn what it looks like, Juul has a lot of friends, a lot of cousins, right? Like there are a lot of similar different names, similar look products that exist. Juul looks like a USB drive. I'm shocked I don't have one just sitting here, but a tiny little USB. And they did that with purpose and intent. They knew it was discreet. It could sit right here on a desk. When these first came out, people were trying to plug them into computers.
Right.
They didn't know.
Yeah,
And so
a lot of them looked just like the little USB drives. Like,
we're
I
both
mean,
looking
I
for
have
them.
them here. I mean, this is like,
Yep.
this is the USB drive. It
Yep.
looks like, if a vape looks like this.
And it's very, very similar. And
Yeah.
then everyone should know that they have flavor pods that clip on the end of them. So that's how you can switch out your flavors. They're very cheap. And when I say Juul knew what they were doing, Google for yourself. Juul's facing lawsuits. They're paying over $440 million out to 33 states because they lied about their target audience. They knew that these products that first tested weren't even that strong, so they made them stronger. 3 times more nicotine. Nicotine is what gets you addicted, right? You're physically addicted substance there. And they produce these and market, and we know this happens live, right, with kids. My kids, the barking ones. But that's exactly what happened. They produced these Juuls, they made them discreet, they made them taste good, and over the years, they have gotten cheaper and cheaper. My landscapers show up right now. That's hard knocking the door.
So we talked about how inexpensive they are. Like, what is a normal, like, a range cost for Juul?
So from my understanding, when a Juul 4-pack starter kit first came out, these things were going for $50. And that's important to talk about because you had 4 flavored pods in there. One pod, still to this day, is equivalent to about 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine, which is a pack.
Yeah.
So a starter kit is what? 4 packs of cigarettes for $50. Seemed like a deal. Nowadays, with coupons and what have you, you can get that starter kit for as little as $5.
Unbelievable.
Well, that's because the competition kicked in, right? So you've got to offer deals, and it's very cheap.
And how easy it is for kids to get that,
I always remind parents, older brother, sister, friend can buy it,
Yep.
has it, introduces it. You know, you can think there are amazing kids, people out there, but limited information, sometimes we make bad decisions.
Right.
And when you're a kid and it doesn't produce this nasty, stinky smoke, you know, and you don't know any better, and everyone else is doing it.
Yep.
Why not maybe try it?
And it's easy to do in the bathrooms, in the cars, you know, like you said, they're so easy to hide. They're hiding them in their pockets. The girls will put them in their bras. Like it's so easy for them to hide, to access, and then because, you know, nicotine and the whole hand, mouth, you know, attraction, that's a hard thing to break for kids.
Yes. I would just say, like, they start their day and end their day with these things because the nicotine, again, I have a long career of just drug education, and nicotine and heroin early on, we'd say, were some of the toughest drugs to stop using. And just tie it into this conversation, we've seen this evolution of nicotine that went from the cigarettes to the vapes, and the heroin went from the heroin to the fentanyl. So we are currently living just in a society where old drugs are more potent, more aggressive, newer. There's just been an evolution.
Right. And what is the risk? I mean, because we're going to continue this conversation, but what is the risk with, because as we know, when kids start a behavior, it can escalate depending on when they start it, what they start, and where it goes from there. What is your kind of overall concerned about this epidemic that teens have turned to now with nicotine and where it can go as they get older?
Couple concerns. Frequency starting earlier with a liquid form of nicotine, right? Back in the day, you were smoking this stuff.
Right.
Some little quick education. You've got to take that liquid and heat it to over 450 degrees in order for it to become a vapor that you can inhale into your lungs. So there's obviously not been a lot of long-term studies. It's a newer product, but liquid is dangerous. And I'm not by any means condoning smoking, but historically comparing the two, what smoking took decades to do, vaping's doing it in as little as months and years. Never in the past would you see a teenager on a ventilator or having a double lung transplant in their teenage years from nicotine. See, I'm careful how I say that because the nicotine of smoking, we thought emphysema, lung disease later in life, but now it's teens and 20s, hospitalizations, like burnt out lungs in teens and 20s from the vape. And I don't want people to be misinformed and think that I'm here to like say, oh gosh, she said no. First of all, you're never going to hear me just say no. You're going to hear me tell you about being in the know, being a knowledgeable person. That oil-based product that you vape can burn the lining of the lungs and cause long-term damage. So I think parents need to just be knowledgeable, share that info with kids. I'm amazed at how many people, any age, when they hear what I just said, kind of go, maybe this isn't a good idea. Or they've experienced that burn. You might have one person completely fine, and I can speak from experience with some of the partners locally, kids. Another kid took a hit of this stuff and the girl went home. He went to the hospital for 3 weeks, right? And on oxygen and couldn't breathe. And again, looking at double lung transplant at 18 years of age. So I think, yes, there's a major concern with this stuff and people just need to be informed. I will also emphasize though, you keep hearing me talk about vaping, burning. Vaping's a behavior of a drug. Vaping is a behavior. I want people to hear that. It's like smoking's a behavior. You could vape more products than nicotine. People are vaping marijuana very regularly. I will tell you right now, just statistically speaking, smoking's out. Vaping's in. More kids vape their marijuana than they do smoke it. And then I've kind of even talked briefly about this dangerous drug of fentanyl. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention it. That could be vaped as well, intentional or unintentional.
Okay. Well, before we break, where are kids hiding their vapes?
Anywhere and everywhere. It's like you said, it's not hard, right? A girl could literally strap it in her bra right here, put it over their ear, in the cap of a baseball. I hate to say it's still in plain sight as to how many people don't know. In a
Right.
pocket, in a boot, in a book. I mean, these things are so tiny.
Yeah.
When we, talk more offline, I'll even give some great resources where kids talk about it. It's just in my nightstand. It's the last thing I do before I go to bed. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. That's what's scary, is how
Absolutely.
the grasp that these products have on our kids.
Well, and it's a temporary solution to stress for them, so well, we are going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to be diving deeper into this conversation and talking further about the effects of vaping. Remember to watch this full episode by downloading the Mask Matters app. It's available free on Apple and Google Play and have parenting solutions right at your fingertips.